Hey everybody, and welcome to or back to my channel, My Kind of Stuff, and today is episode 5 of TBR Takedown. So if you're new to my channel and you don't know what TBR Takedown is, it is a little series that I started recently. I guess we've been doing it this will be the 5th month. Where I am just trying to work through my physical TBR. So I made a spreadsheet of all the books that I physically own that I have not read yet. And then I am going to spin a random number generator wheel, and whatever number it gives me, that is the book on the spreadsheet that we need to read. If it is a book in the middle of a series and I'm not to that book yet, I will just read the next book I need to read in that series, because I'm obviously not going to read my series out of order because that is silly. But that being said, let's hop right into our first roll and see what we get. All right, so this is my spreadsheet. As you can see here, I have 141 books on my TBR that I have not read yet. I feel like we're kind of back to square one here. I was doing a really good job reading through what I had, but then my birthday happened, and then like 2 months later, the holidays happened, and now we're back to square one almost. So, I mean, not to say that I haven't read anything, because I've actually read quite a lot off of my list. I've just gotten that many. So let's get into it. All right, let's do our first spin and see what we get. I think it's funny that this wheel, there's so many numbers on it, you can't even like kind of guess what you're going to be landing on because it's so small at the center. Okay, book 101. So let's remove this as a choice and go see what book 101 is. All right, so if we scroll up, book 101, The Curse of Saints by Kate Dramis. This is actually a really convenient choice. This is one of the authors, I believe, that is going to be at Romanticycon in February that I will be going to at the end of the month. And I haven't read a book by this author before, so this is perfect because we are reading a new author. We are going to be meeting this author, so I'm excited to hop into this book. All right, let's spin for our next pick. Number 84. Okay, let's remove that. Guess we don't have to scroll very far to get to number 84. Ooh, okay. Obviously we're going to be reading volume 1 and not volume 2, but this is Solo Leveling. I recently have watched the movie, season 1 of the show, binged all of the manhwa, and now my husband bought me for Christmas the first 3 volumes of the light novels. So these are a new addition to my shelf, but I am super excited to read this. I have been just obsessed with this series, and I can't wait to continue. All right, let's roll for our third book. Oh, number 4. All right, to the top of the list we go. Let's remove that. All right, so let's scroll all the way up. Ooh, another brand new addition since Christmas to my shelves, A Kingdom of Stars and Shadows by Renee. This one was gifted to me by Carissa from Boxers and Books, so I will make sure I link her down below. Thank you, Carissa, so much for gifting me this. I'm late to the party on this series, I'm well aware, but I have read the Veiled Kingdom series by Renee, or at least the first 2 books. Book 3 isn't out yet, and was absolutely in love with it, so I'm really excited to hop into this series too. All right, let's roll for our 4th book. Number 105, back down towards the bottom of the spreadsheet. I'm glad that it's kind of hopping all over this time because I feel like normally I get all numbers very close to one another. So let's go see what this one is. All right, scrolling back down. 105, The Fall of Hyperion. Okay, so I read the first book in this series, Hyperion, quite a few months ago now. It's kind of like a sci fantasy space adventure with this motley ragtag crew that like has to learn how to work together because they are foretold that they are the only people that can open these mysterious time tombs. And book one was mostly just their trip there and learning about the backstory of all these characters and kind of how their stories come together and align. So I'm really excited to hop into book two and see these guys in action. All right, let's get into our fifth and final spin. Number 136. All right, let's go see what that is. "136, We Used to Live Here" by Marcus Kliewer. I'm super excited to read this. I've been hearing some really good things. A few people were kind of on the fence about it, but for the most part, people seem to be obsessed with this book. So I'm really excited to try it out for myself. And this is also one that's kind of newly added to my TBR. I think I bought it. I bought it for myself, but it was while I was out Christmas shopping. So you know how that goes. So glad to be adding this to the list. All right, so let's recap kind of what we got. Our first spin got us The Curse of Saints. This is a little chunkier than I was thinking, but that's all right. Or maybe the paper is just really thick. I guess it's only it's just under 500 pages. So excited to get to this one. I hope that I love it since I will have the opportunity to meet the author so I can maybe get my book signed. Then spin 2 got us Solo Leveling Volume 1. Again, this is a light novel. I assume this will be a pretty quick read for me. For the most part, it's going to be following the same story that I've already watched in movie form, anime form, and read in manga form. So I think it will be very quick to digest, and they're not all that long. Then spin 2 got us A Kingdom of Stars and Shadows. Again, another short little guy. Shouldn't take me long at all to read. Holly Renee's writing is very bingeable and digestible very quickly, so I'm going to fly through this one, and I'm super excited. Then we got, for our fourth roll, The Fall of Hyperion by Dan Simon. I feel like these books look much bigger than they really are, just because it's a mass market paperback size, so it looks quite chunky, but if it were a full-size book, there would be a lot less pages. But again, super excited to see what this ragtag crew gets into. And then last spin 5, gave us We Used to Live Here. And I'm glad we got a thriller on this list. I feel like normally I get quite a few, and yeah, this is our only one. We have a sci fantasy romance. I guess 2 fantasy romances. I think A Curse of Saints is fantasy romance too. And then I don't really like a lit RPG is what Solo Leveling is. So we have at least a somewhat decent variety of books this time. Pretty sure last month I had 3 horrors, 1 historical fiction, and then Harry Potter. So excited to have a little bit better variety this month, and I can't wait to get reading. So I will check back in with you guys when I have finished one of these. All right, guys, I have officially finished my first novel for this episode of TBR Takedown. I picked up Solo Leveling Volume 1. This is the light novel of the Solo Leveling series. I wasn't really sure what to expect going into this, and while it does follow like the exact same story as the manga and the show and the movie, all of which I've watched and read previously, um, this had a lot more detail. So we follow Jin Woo, who is an E rank hunter. He's known notoriously as the worst hunter around. He's got no talent, no money, but he's trying to help his family because his dad is no longer in the picture. His mom is in the hospital, and his little sister needs money for university. So he's going through these dungeons trying to earn money for his family, but he keeps getting hurt. Um, One fateful day, he ends up in this double dungeon and getting abandoned by his party and ends up being killed and sacrificing himself to save his party and reawakens, and now he can all of a sudden start leveling up, learning new abilities, learning new skills. And it's just a whole lot of fun. And he even like physically changes throughout the story. Like he keeps evolving almost. Every book in the manga, like he changes through each one, so it's really neat to see. This follows volumes 1 through 3 of the manga, and I'm really excited to continue this series. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. We all know I'm absolutely obsessed with this story, but this just brought so much more. I also listened to the audiobook of it, and the narrator did a really good job with all the like lit RPG elements. Like he made a lot of really fun like pinging sounds and stuff when he would get notifications that he was leveling up, and it was just a ton of fun. All right, guys, it is the next day, but I have finished my second book for TBR Takedown, and that is A Kingdom of Stars and Shadows by Holly Renee. This is book 1 of the Stars and Shadows series. I was gifted this by Carissa from Boxers and Books. And I have been waiting so long to read this series. I don't know why I've been putting it off. I did read Holly Renee's other series, The Veiled Kingdom, and really loved the first 2 books, and I'm excited for the third one to come out this year. But that being said, I was really, really excited to jump into this world. Um, Basically, we follow our female main character. Her name is Adara, and she is basically being sold off sort of by her mother to another kingdom because it is like foretold that their union will determine the fate of the kingdom. um Her father had like had weird ties with this kingdom as well and was murdered for whatever it was he was doing. So now his mother is trying to like make good on everything and give her to the crowned prince to marry. However, of course, this turns into a messy little love triangle because it is not the crowned prince who she desires, but his half breed brother, um, who kind of acts as like her guard in this story. I've not read a lot of like bodyguard type romance. This is only like the second one, but I quite enjoy this trope, so I'm definitely going to have to look for more. But they definitely work together a lot to kind of try and save her from her fate. Um, Basically, the crowned prince has to like drink her blood in order to get her star powers. She has stars all across her body, like little constellations and things. Every time she gets a scar, it heals with stars. Her and the prince's brother, kind of their powers feed off of one another as they do in the normal fantasy romance world when it comes to like fae and vampires. So they're definitely like committing treason by being together. There are a lot of fun, really spicy scenes. It's a fairly short book. This was a really quick read. Um, but basically, their kingdom ends up getting attacked, and she's forced to make a choice whether or not to betray her kingdom or betray her heart. So I can't wait to continue this series. Like I said, it was a really short first book, but it was a lot of fun. There are 4 books in this series, so really excited to get to those hopefully very soon. And I did end up giving this one 4 stars. All right, guys, it's a couple days later. I have finished book 3 of TBR Takedown, and that is We Used to Live Here. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. We follow a young queer couple who flip houses for a living. Their names are Charlie and Eve. And they just got this killer deal on this house in like a picturesque neighborhood. And they start working on the house. Charlie's away at work one day, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the door. Eve answers, and there's a man standing there with his family saying that he used to live in this house years ago and he wants to show his kids around. Of course, Eve, for some stupid reason, lets these random people into her home. And as soon as they get there, weird things start happening. The family's youngest kid like goes missing in the basement. There's ghostly things materializing, and all of a sudden there's this huge snowstorm that blows through, so this family ends up not being able to leave and get stuck staying at her house. They kind of don't get the hint that their visit should be over. Eve keeps trying to like drop hints for them to like leave after the snowstorm, and they're not going. She wakes up one morning and Charlie is missing. And then Eve starts kind of losing her grip on reality. And Eve can't really figure out if there's something wrong with the house or the family visiting or if she's crazy. And I really liked the first half of this book, like the very thriller aspect. And then the second half of the book felt like something totally different. Like it felt very disjointed to me. It turned into more like cosmic type of horror, I feel like, in the latter half. And I don't know. I also didn't really like the end all that much. It felt very ambiguous and didn't really have an ending, in my opinion. Overall, I still enjoyed my time with it. It kept me on the edge of my seat, it kept me engaged. I didn't really want to put it down. I just feel like this was 2 different books and then they just kind of mashed them together, which is why it got 3.5 stars for me and not higher. But I did still really enjoy my time with this one. All right, guys, it has again been another couple days, and we have finished our 4th book for TBR Takedown. I'm really flying through these this month. But The Curse of Saints by Kate Dramis was the 4th book I read for this. It's fairly chunky, but not like ridiculously huge. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars as well. It's, again, your typical fantasy. This one leans more towards fantasy than it does the romance. There is a romantic plot here, but there's not a ton of spice or anything like that. And also, I'm going to be meeting this author at Romanticon at the end of the month in LA. So this is one that's been on my shelves that I really, really wanted to get to before going. So that way I knew whether or not I wanted to drag this book along with me to get signed. And I will be doing that because I think this is part of the Curse and Saints series, which I believe is going to be 3 books. And book 3 comes out this year. And I think that this is just going to get better. This book did have quite a bit of setup. It was also way more political than I normally enjoy in a fantasy romance, but for some reason it worked for me here. We follow Aya in this story, and she is the spy master for the queen. She takes a blood oath to ensure that she protects those she is fighting alongside, which includes Will, who is the queen's enforcer, which is one of the love interests here, and also her rival. All of a sudden, there's these rumors going around that dark magic has risen in a nearby kingdom, and her and Will are sent to investigate. While they're there, all of a sudden, her powers start acting out beyond like her affinity that she's had before, and now she's at risk of the kingdom turning her into a weapon of war. Also, her relationship with Will kind of shifts from these rivals to lovers, and not even really lovers, just interested in each other. They don't really get together until the very end of this book, but you can definitely see the feelings growing. Um, and again, another kind of like slow burn sort of romance, which I didn't think would be my thing, but I'm learning this year that it kind of works for me. Like, as long as the tension is there and there's something else going on to move the plot and story along, I don't mind a slow burn, it seems. So I'm really glad that I picked this one up. I don't remember if I said, but I did give this one 3.5 stars. Um, I did really enjoy my time with it. I am excited to continue the series because I think it's just going to get better. And I'm also really excited to meet this author later this month. And that being said, we just have one last book to read for this episode, which is The Fall of Hyperion. That's another pretty chunky book, so it'll probably be a few more days before I check back in with you guys when I have finished that one. All right, guys, I've officially finished my last book for TBR Takedown, and that was The Fall of Hyperion by Dan Simmons. Let's just say this was a humongous disappointment. I gave this one 2 stars. I read Hyperion a few months ago, and I gave that one 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It was such a fun story. The characters were so whimsical and unique. The audiobook, the narrator was fantastic, and they all had their own voices. Um, and then we get to this book, book 2, and first of all, the audiobook only has a single narrator. It's not multicasted anymore. It's very hard to tell the characters apart. Their personalities seem to have just disappeared. It was really super disappointing. The story moved way too slow. It was hard to keep track of like who was where and doing what and when. Um, I don't want to talk about it a ton because it's a book 2. But basically, we follow this group of characters on this quest to open these mysterious time tombs. Book 1 was all their travel story, like them getting there, but also learning all of their backstory and how their worlds are interconnected and why these 5 people got brought together to go on this journey. And now in this book, the time tombs are opening. There's some really tragic things that happen in this book, but just the way it was done and written, like I didn't feel any emotion. The characters fell really flat for me. Um, yeah, I, I'm so sad. I am so sad that this didn't hit. I do own the next 2 books, so I'm hoping that maybe it gets better. Like, I'm still gonna give book 3 a try. Luckily, I only have the mass market paperbacks, so if I end up not liking them, I guess I only wasted like $8, but still, just such a big disappointment. And what a terrible way to end this episode of TBR Takedown. Because I, for the most part, enjoyed everything else that I read. So let's just do another little recap real quick. All right. This was our stack. We used to live here. I gave this one 3.5 stars. Had A Kingdom of Stars and Shadows, which I gave 4 stars. We had the first volume of the solo leveling light novels, which I gave 5 stars. We had The Curse of Saints, which I gave 3.5 stars, and then The Fall of Hyperion, which I gave 2 stars. All right, guys, that is it for this month's episode. I am going to probably start filming my next one and pick my next set of books very soon. So I will catch you guys in the next episode. In the meantime, make sure you give the video a thumbs up on your way out, subscribe if you're new, and make sure your notifications are on so you don't miss any upcoming content. I'll see you guys later. Bye.